This is AI Gonzalo Lira, and this is Straight Talk, Cyber Cafe Edition, Christmas Special, Extravaganza.
What's up, guys? I'm in the studio here. It is New Year's extravaganza. I'm sorry, I wanted to do the intro because I did work on that last year, and I wanted you guys to see it again. But we've got Mad Max with us from Liberty Rising Group, and Swen's going to be joining us later. And if we have anyone else that's going to join us, then they'll come later. But I appreciate you guys. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I'm going to go back to audio real quick. But yeah, take it away, Adam.
Hi everyone. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas period, etc. It's been quite the year. I don't think 2025 shocked anyone really paying attention. It's not the prevailing hashtag for the year. The theme has been Collapse 2025, and pretty much describes what happened. Pretending otherwise is a bit exhausting. Nothing. I mean, events occur, of course, but nothing truly new happened. The war's already there. The institution's already hollow. The narrative's already decaying. The incentives are already upside down. What's changed really is the distance between the story and reality is closing in. I feel like lots more people are waking up to it. I feel like most people are continuing to struggle with things. Hopefully something I say often, hopefully things are looking up for you guys individually. Hopefully you got good things that are actually advancing, but as opposed to just progressing along this line of collapse, decay, of decay. Right? It's not something to panic about or have outrage, just recognizing that this normal now requires effort. The stability is staged, the competence is punished, intelligence is managed, not rewarded. 2025 hasn't removed a mask, it's just made it heavier to wear. So I think that tonight it's not about predictions or slogans or end of the world theatrics. I think we're going to be taking inventory calmly of what became obvious this year and how we should be moving forwards. If you felt that internal click sometimes in 2025, this conversation's for you.
I think so. I mean, it's a new year coming in 2026. We're changing it from Collapse 2025. Still going to use that meme because it began in 2025. We're headed into Collapse 2026. So go ahead and get ready for a new year, man. This is going to be something interesting. I'm actually right now updating the thumbnail because you guys are seeing something different. So you're gonna see a new thumbnail on YouTube. There we go. That's up now, and I'm posting this to the Telegram right now. Yeah. So we were going to talk about a bunch of stuff. I mean, this is going to go. We've got a lot of people coming in to the channel tonight, and we're going to be spending New Year's together. I'm obviously in Georgia, so like where I'm about 2 hours from New Year, and you are currently in Bulgaria, right? Or that area.
Yeah, it's at 8 o'clock nearly.
Okay, so you've got another 4 hours, and this should be posted here pretty soon. Hold on, what's going on here? Oh, I don't know, it's not doing its thing. All right, Telegram's acting up. No big deal. Yeah, so I've got all that done. Where am I at? Yeah. 1 second. There we go. All right. Right on. Anyway, it's New Year's. There's stuff going on outside right now. I don't know if it's the same in your country that where you guys are watching from, but I could hear it outside. There's lots of fireworks going on. I live in I'm kind of at the edge of the city and the capital here in Tbilisi, so like you'll be hearing probably some rocket fire and stuff. It's not Russia, but I mean it's just something going on, you know, the new year, so to speak. Yeah, good stuff. So recap. We got a lot of stuff going on in the 2025, and what kind of predictions do you think is going to happen in 2026 there, Adam?
Well, more of the same, really, is the best prediction, I'd say. I I don't personally see how they continue the war for 9-12 months, 6 months maybe. And look, maybe they can keep throwing bodies into the war. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they survive another year. Right now, they hardly have they don't have any money to fund themselves. It's all US and EU money. How's that going? Corruption scandals. A lot of. I think it's fractured. I think it's over. It's fractured, but they continue to fight. The reason we talk about this so often is because this really is that linchpin that's holding together the current order, because they're not going to let everything collapse until that does, because it's worth them printing the money and just inflating it, blowing the bubbles, just to hold that war going. So as soon as that war stops, because they've lost, because they don't have the bodies to throw in, then I think everything melts down. So we're all just building up to that. And that's why hard metals like gold and silver on this nice bull run. It's why assets are going up. They're just printing money as we get poorer, as they sell more weapons. So I think the trends that we've seen, especially towards the end of the year, are going to continue, and they're going to continue for another 6 months, say. And then I'm hoping that this bloody war will end halfway through the year, as soon as possible, really. But they could perhaps keep it going. Other than that, I mean, global warming, EU regulations, US regulations. Maybe I'm sure there's going to be some great AI applications out. I'm sure there's going to be some scary stuff, surveillance stuff. I'm sure that things are going to get more expensive. In 4 hours, the Bulgarian leva is no longer legal tender. It is, sorry. I think you can use it for another 3 or 6 months here, but it's officially the euro is going to be the new price here. And I think, based on historical estimates, I think we're going to see inflation between 10 and 20% cost push. And I don't know if that's over 1 or 3 years. That's just when I studied it. We spoke about it many streams ago. Just seems to be not so good, but it is what it is. It's a continuation of these existing trends of EU integration, EU regulation, government control. Same old. There's events going on, but really not much is happening. So what I think is perhaps more important, and like I look at my 2025 and I see, okay, there's all these things going on in the external world. What about internally? Like how do I reflect on 2025? And I could go through events and how I've reacted and navigated those events, but also personally, I think I've gone through a transformation of intellectual maturity, of resilience, and of constructive philosophical building amid all the adversity. I think that's one of the most important things, is that this inner sovereignty, this inner willpower and mastery is the real superpower that certainly I hope that I've focused on considerably this past year, and that's going to be my focus for the next year. Depth over noise, and in both a will to power, but more a will in being.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the trend. I mean, it's kind of heading towards. I would say it's not really heading towards a cliff, but it's just like basically the description of the podcast, in particular on my side, lies. What's the name of my podcast again? Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's what it is. It's just lies, more lies, more bullshit. Continuation of the QE to infinity and beyond. You know, all that good stuff. So I mean, I want to start with like gold, silver, crypto. We know those are down right now, and the one thing is that gold and silver, like it hit silver hit $80 an ounce. I predicted that it would by the end of the year, and the reason why is because of China. They're hoarding a lot of it. They're buying actually a lot of gold and silver from Russia too, apparently, over the last year, and they're also the high tech industry, AI bubble, all the stuff that we talked about last couple of years. It's all been showing its signs of decay and eventual collapse, like we're seeing. We saw already with the big tech bust that we predicted earlier this year. Layoffs, and they're actually preparing for layoffs currently in the tech industry. I mean, it is what it is, and they're doubling down too. So it's not just it's not just that they're the layoffs of the tech industry, but now governments are funding this new tech boom, this AI boom. So now China's investing in it, America's investing in it, Europe's investing in it, and I don't know if Russia is particularly because they're dealing with a wartime economy, but now it's becoming a circular debt spiral, and this is where we had the bubble. Basically, if we refer, they're using bubble tech terms and technology and lexicon that we saw in the '08 CDO crisis, like too big to fail, and now they're referring to AI as too big to fail, and they're saying they need to invest more because like even Trump has come out and said in the administration and America has said we need to fund it and we need to get ahead of the curve before China beats us to it, right? And you've heard this terminology and words before because this goes back to World War II when they were saying similar stuff, you know. But I digress. Getting back to gold and silver, that's the reason why silver's up, and it took a sharp decline. And the reason that's all normal. It's normal behavior in the market with commodities. Oil's down to $50 a barrel, $50-$60 a barrel. It's where I said it would be at the end of the year of 2025, and that's normal. Usually it's up during summer, like I said, because that's a travel season, and that's also the time for agricultural production and different things. That's usually when everybody's at peak production. But as far as silver and gold, the reason why it took a dip towards the end of the year is because of sell-offs. Big trading firms with paper, on the market, they were basically trading down to take their profits towards the end of the quarter for taxes for next year, for the fiscal year, as well as end of trading losses, gains, capital gains, things of that nature. So this is all normal behavior with gold and silver. And I said that it might reach 100 by the end of the year. Well, it got pretty close. I mean, I think I got up to like $85 an ounce. Silver did, and the dip was coming. Even regular traders, people, experts in the field, and I'm not an expert in commodities trading. I'm just an expert in sociology and leadership and policy, dealing with economics and the economic side and trade deals. So what I predicted is it would take a little bit dip towards the end of the year, which it has done. It's normal. Crypto's down. That's the one that I'm like, whoa, what's going on there? But again, it's normal behavior because, like I said, the trading firms, and I think, Adam, you know a little bit more about this. They're basically leveraging crypto, I guess, as stocks are coming down to free up money to put into the market. And my guess is that a lot of trading firms were selling crypto off for the AI bubble as well as to buy into commodities trading towards the end of the year because of the boom, the quick bubble or boom, not really bubble, but boom that happened towards the last quarter of that.
How markets work is there's cycles and narratives, and there's periods. So gold and silver have been on a parabolic rise up, whereas cryptocurrency is more volatile. Now, you can have it in cases where there is a dollar weakening, say, and so both gold, silver, these heavy metal commodities, and as well crypto, they can rise. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing that inflation, crypto is volatile. Bitcoin was at the 100K, and then it was at 120, 80, and it's kind of volatile. There's not really a narrative. Gold and silver is going up and up and up and up, and it's going parabolically up, which means all the money's going there, and no one's been that there isn't. It's not the season to be making quick money in cryptocurrency. That people are trading volatility, as you say with silver. You say, oh, silver's down, it's $80, it was 82. Okay, well, that's volatility. If you're not doing day trading or weekly intra, if you're not trading the ranges, intra trading, and it's not really down at all.
Right.
For a month it's up, so to 2 days maybe it's either up or about the same. So that everything you've said is correct. It's just cycles. Like the fundamentals are just, this is the failure of fiat and of fiat proliferation, which means that hard assets, especially gold, silver, Bitcoin, historically, have been very good investments over this time period since, say, 2020 or just forever. But the thing about silver, gold is it's been suppressed and low, and it's been you've got to be. It's been said for ages: accumulate gold, buy gold, make sure you have physical metal, especially physical, not paper like spot online. Actually get them, and they'll go up. But it's been a much longer accumulation thing rather than cryptocurrency, which has had a very exciting, volatile, lucrative, as well as more risky because of the volatility, several few years.
Yeah, and I mean, basically, the reason why gold often sells off in late December, as well as silver to an extent. Silver's an industrial metal, so like it's generally associated with tech industry. Even Elon Musk has come out and said the same thing, that silver. He's like, yeah, I mean, silver's up for a reason, and he's worried because he has to use a lot of silver within his organizations. For all kinds of applications, especially with the space and tech industry. So generally, gold often sells off in late December, i.e., like I said, profit taking. In order to take profits for end of quarter profits or end of year profits. So funds are locked up for gains, so they can free up cash or capital for for the first quarter, which is when we start seeing the gains there. So dollar strengthens, short-term U.S. dollar. It strengthens towards the end to pressure gold. That's also a factor. Lower liquidity, the thin holiday trading exaggerates, and this is because people are starting to take their vacations. They're wrapping up the trading year, and of course, the stock market's going to be closed for New Year's as usual. And then portfolio rebalancing. These are all the different trends. But looking at silver in particular, silver usually drops harder. That's why we saw that huge drop recently in the last week. It's a smaller market. It's easier to push down. Part industrial metal, so it hits growth fears. That's not really the main culprit. I think mainly is Camex and the paper traders were basically trying to sell off what they could, because a lot of the volatility in silver and gold right now is being paper traded, as Max had pointed out. So there's usually a lot of heavy trading towards the end of the year with paper trading. So generally, what happens, what we're looking for 2026 for the first quarter, is that silver often outperforms into the first quarter. It usually outperforms gold in early quarter one, and the momentum usually returns. Silver rallies faster and harder. So there's that capulation, and then final stakeouts before a multi-week or multi-month move up. So we will. I'm predicting $100 silver next quarter, probably within January, if not by the end of the quarter. Just because of the speculation with the tech industry. And I want to get into, we're going to get into like the current military movements and all the craziness that's going on in South America and Russia and these different areas as well, because that's also affecting the price and will affect the price ultimately. Anything else you want to add before we move on to that?
Oh, well, just on going back to on technology and state. I mean, we're seeing you described it as what a debt dump, a late stage debt dump in AI and technology. I think. Um, like what we're seeing is capital circulating amongst the state, finance, and these tech defense hybrids. The consumption is all debt based. The innovation is very front loaded and narrative heavy. Not much immediate returns. There's kind of a reduced tolerance for failure. But it's important that this is not so organic. It's state mediated capital recycling into AI and technology under conditions of late stage debt saturation and military industrial complex persistence. So just yesterday, I think Nvidia bought $5 billion of Intel share. I think with it earlier this year, the US government either bought or took 10% of Intel ownership also. Of course, this is all done on chronic deficits, which is debt issuance. That debt is being redirected into defense, semiconductors, AI infrastructure, being done through subsidies and demand guarantees. So why is RAM so expensive? Because OpenAI has got a subsidy from the US government to buy up 25% of all the RAM. Doesn't even exist yet. That is pushing up the demand because it's becoming more scarce as well. All the other military industrial complexes are all, buying up RAM for especially AI. You have high capex absorbing massive capital. You have opaque valuations where it's largely narrative driven rather than anything fundamental like cash flow. Of course, there's dual uses. You have the civilian and military justification. And as I've spoken many times, what happens is the intelligence system itself is state-led. They're the ones developing the intelligence models mostly, and the capacity to continually improve that, massively resource heavy. And then you have consumer applications taking that intelligence and building their own things off of that. And you get some good stuff in there. You also get a lot of a lot of waste, so much slop. So, but because it has that security framing, that absolutely overrides market discipline, making them ideal debt absorbers. They are not just too big to fail, they are too strategic to fail. They're too complex to audit meaningfully, and they're too future-oriented to falsify in the present. So there's undergoing, in this decade of digital transformation, this military-industrial complexes, they're not going away, they're actually becoming more abstracted. In the Cold War, military-industrial complex was hardware-centric. Post-2008, it's become data-centric, software-centric, and infrastructure-centric. And now with artificial intelligence, it's well, not only is it becoming all of those things, it's also becoming, once again, hardware-centric in terms of data centers, energy production, and RAM, computer parts, semiconductors. So if you look at how much is being spent on AI and fueling this bubble, if you then zoom out and say this is actually part of the defense budget or the war budget, you're like, okay, makes sense that the warmongers are spending so much, and they're just they can invent the threat narratives to make it persist. They can invent the procurement, so it's only the form really changes. It's from missiles to networks to data to models. And this is how state capitalism, monopoly capitalism, whatever you want to call it, certainly liberal democracy and just statehood, states. This is the future. Massive cyber, digital, artificial warfare. Muted.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I mean, the thing is geopolitically, so market-wise, like you were talking about, we have the strategic pivot, with Russia and China, and they're deepening economic ties that's reducing dependencies, like I said, on the Western financial infrastructure and trading centers. So the supply of precious metals, diversifications away from Western-centered markets, as well as support for de-dollarization strategies, these are also, it's more of a strategic pivot in regards to China and Russia right now, especially with the BRICS nation, volatility or support. So how this is impacting gold and silver. So they're heavily purchasing. China's, like I said, it's supporting prices. I think recently China, for instance, they came out with a new policy where they're not letting these commodities with silver and gold leaving China. Apparently, they like people can buy it domestically, but they're like it can't leave the country. So, where
Capital
this is going?
controls. Common
Yeah, capital.
China.
Yeah, it's a lot easier in Russia and China. Maybe not so much Russia, but in China, it's a lot easier because they control the. It's a communist country, so they control the movement of their people. Obviously, Russia, it's a little bit harder. But a lot of gold is leaving Russia anyway for China, so it's neither here nor there. Plus, Russia's like a large producer of gold in the world, especially diamonds and other types of resources. So a lot of that's naturally going to their allied nations or their trading partners, i.e., China. So a lot of it's leaving as well. But more importantly, on the European front, apparently, European Union countries are trying to repatriate their gold back to their vaults and their central institutions, their banks, and a lot of it's been repatriated. So generally, we saw during the cusp or the beginning of World War II, a lot of gold was being repatriated, as well as when it actually took off, so to speak. A lot of gold started moving westward towards London and France, and then eventually towards the United States, where it sat basically
and
for
Switzerland.
50, 60 years. Yeah, Switzerland as well. It sat for 50, 60 years before it got rid. This is basically what's going on. Is the gold is doing one of these like circular things, kind of like AI, how it's the debt is being circularly traded amongst all these high tech companies. But the gold basically went from Europe to America. Now it's back to Europe, and we're at the cusp of like possibly the beginning stages of World War III. I don't think we're in World War III. Gerald Sente says we're in World War III. A lot of influencers say we're there. We're in the cusp of it. I don't think so. First off, to get into that level, if you compare it to World War I, World War II, generally there's trade embargoes, there's tariffs, there's sanctions, and then there's currency wars, which we've already passed. Currency wars were way back then. That's done. Now we're actually getting into the nitty gritty. This is the final stages where they start moving gold and start hoarding commodities and resources, which we're starting to see in China and Russia and in the United States, where they're starting to nationalize and strategically control a state surplus of these. And this is generally posturing and getting prepared. Doesn't necessarily we're in World War III or we're headed towards it, but what indication that I talked about today in the Consolidated Legacy group is that basically what Trump's doing in South America. What does Venezuela have? Why is he posturing at this way? What has he said about Venezuela? That he wants the oil, right? Well, in that regard, it's not so much that he wants the oil. He wants to prevent the oil from going to where? China and Russia. He doesn't want anybody having access to it. I mean,
Russia's got oil. China wants the oil, and,
right.
and Russia wants the access and control just over the. It's a big country in South America. And you want the
right. So what bases are in the Mediterranean right now?
What bases?
Yeah, there's a Russian naval base there. I don't know if you knew about that in Cuba.
You said the Mediterranean. Yeah, in Cuba they've had.
Oh, not Mediterranean. Sorry, the Caribbean. Sorry, yeah, in Cuba. Yeah, I apologize. Thanks for correcting me. But yeah, the naval installation just got revamped. China's also got naval. I don't think they have actual they have military bases within South America, but they do have influence in the ports, like in Peru and Venezuela, parts of South America and the Caribbean, also in Cuba. So if there was ever any type of naval conflict or any type of major conflict in the Americas, what would be the primary source to supply commodities? Favorable,
Panama
well,
ports.
favorable ports in allied nations. So basically what Trump is planning or doing possibly, and like I said, I'm not saying I'm not his, I'm not the State Department or any of these people or any of these speculations, but you can infer that basically he's trying to gain control of i.e. Greenland, and South America, just in case if China or Russia were to decide. And Russia's Navy is not really that. They're not worried about Russia's Navy. They really don't have that big of a Navy to really be that much of a threat other than nuclear subs. But China's more of a bigger threat. Their Navy is huge and massive, and it's grown over the years. So that's, I think, their biggest concern right now is that they just don't want Chinese naval bases porting in South America and Cuba and using the fuel and resources in those, because there are refineries in Venezuela, there are refineries in South America, that China, if they needed to, could seize those, and then that way they have a limited supply of oil, because Venezuela has some of the largest supplies of oil in the entire planet. This is well known. Yeah.
So I think, let's say in 3 years' time, World War III breaks out and it's everything. I would think that in 50 years' time, we would not say that World War III broke out in 2028. We'd say it broke out in 2022. This is where we're at. Arguably,
2014, possibly, yeah. If you go back to
there was it's like kind of
Ukraine.
I would say,
Ukraine,
the invasion of Ukraine. Yeah,
not even the invasion. But the posturing with Georgia that I'm in right now, with Ukraine, Eastern Europe.
These things occurred from 2008 and earlier, certainly. But it's kind of a pre-war period, I would say.
Correct.
So if a war did break out in 3 years, which I don't predict, I think we're not having any war for 10 years. Because you just look at how they talk about it, you look at how they posture, you look at the fact that it takes, according to Douglas McGregor, allegedly, he says, it takes about a decade for you to build up
the
military industrial capacity that you're wanting for a new modern war. Especially look at how things are changing so much in the Ukrainian battlefield, say. You're not going to be ready to fight that in a matter of years. So you're going to want 10 years.
I think 10 is ideal. 10 is like, we're talking about technology and how it's advancing, like you mentioned. I think in World War II, even in 2008, even in modern warfare, 10 years ideally could, it usually, because you have to build it up. But with the fast rate of technology globalization, how quickly they can build and rebuild and remanufacture, I think 5.
Well, you say that, but the European Union is shooting themselves in the foot, because we said that you want AI and you want technology and you want business. What AI, what business, what enterprise does the EU have? Nothing, and they don't have even the energy capacity to do any of it, because they've severed the continental giant, and cheap energy, which had been subsidizing European competitiveness, which is Russia. Because Europe was invaded by America in 1944 and they never left. And so we're a vassal to the United States of America, and they say, we're going to blow up Nord Stream, and you can't do that. Well, tough. Done. Now you got to buy American LNG, which is expensive and inefficient, because even if LNG wasn't so inefficient, you got to ship it across you got to refine it into LNG, ship it across. You got to have an LNG receiver, and you got to transform it and send it around, as opposed to just piping the gas straight from your neighbor. It's so we have this deindustrialization in Europe, where everything's becoming more expensive for Europeans anyway, because energy prices mostly, as well as poor conditions and EU regulations and market shrinking. So I don't think, even if they wanted to, 5 years, that's like if you go full chest to the wall, 5 years, what can you build up? Well, first off, the toy manufacturing capacity in Germany is greater than that of the military-industrial complex there, allegedly, or the arms productions. Right, you're not on a war footing, and you can't afford to. Now, finally, some of the things you mentioned, there's a common saying, common question, a common rhetorical question, which is, well, you know what they say about Weimar conditions requires Weimar solutions, and so we are seeing a lot of deep transformative political shift as all the decay is coming to surface, and it's modernity which is wasting depth for shallow affirmations, eroding instincts, inviting this inevitable breakdown. It's by structural design. So this is what we've been talking about. Collapse 2025. It was never a prediction, but an ongoing diagnosis of this civilizational profligacy, a waste of moral, cultural, and instinctive resources. The decline, it's Collapse 2025. It's not a prediction because the decline is already here, and it's what's most sinister is it's being disguised as progress. But
Correct.
It's the water we're swimming in. It's a slow motion waste, a decay, a collapse. It is where we are, and it's important that we stop pretending that the current order is salvageable. What we do in this podcast every week and on our channels is that we're mapping the terrain, we're sharpening the tools, we're planting the seeds for what does come next, hopefully giving some of that clarity, and giving you the information that means you can make better decisions. And one of those decisions is what they'll do is they say, oh, Putin's going to invade Europe. So now we have an excuse, a narrative to invest in weapons productions and to tax you more, and for you to say you need to accept reduced living standards because of we need to invest in our military. And by the way, I, the politician, own all the shares or lots and lots of shares in Rheinmetall. And it's like, dude, I have no interest in going to war against Russia. I don't. I have no interest in defending democracy from the Iraqis to fall to the Iraqis to fall to the Iraqis. I don't care. You care because you're making a fortune out of it, and it's all narrative decline and profligacy. This is why empires fall. And again, we don't have a healthy civilization.
No. I mean, it's decaying, but I mean, the same thing happened, between World War I and World War II. So the same playbook, so to speak. Roughly, it took 6 to 8 years for Germany to build up in order to fight, to begin the war phase. It broke down. The converting preparation started 7 years. They secretly built up their military, and like I said, this was in secret. So because they had treaties of Versailles, which prevented them from building up any type of military assets. However, there is no such treaties other than maybe the proliferation treaty, nuclear proliferation treaty. But apparently both the United States and Russia have left that. So that's no longer valid anymore.
USA, my understanding, has failed so far to renew it.
Correct. It's not so much that it's that they canceled it or they decided not. It's just a matter of it just wasn't renewed. But more or less, like I said, with Germany, they really started ramping up. It took them 3 years to really build up their military for the beginning stages of World War II.
You're talking 1933 to 7 or
33 to 36. That's all it took. 3 years. They secretly built up. They depleted their military, and it wasn't very modern after World War One. Because of the sanctions, they were forced to basically dismantle, similar to the Cold War, where that's part of that proliferation treaty, where they dismantled a lot of the weapons, the post-Soviet, as well as the United States. It is what it is. More or less, when they went into a full wartime economy, this is while the war was going on, it took them another 3 years to build up the military power and infrastructure. So we're talking about back in the day where they had, this is the first stages of the Henry Fordism and the assembly line. So now it's automated. There's robots. There's, it is what it is. So I could say as much as 1 to 2 years could possibly create if they have the commodities available. Not in Europe. Europe is totally different. But the thing is, the United States have an airplane graveyard that sits in the western United States, and they have more than enough planes that are ready to commission they could be ready to be commissioned within days, weeks, months. Like they can be sending these planes all over the world or to Europe. And Europe already has a lot of these planes are old commission F-14s, 16s, you name it, stuff that's been decommissioned. They're already in NATO. They're already in they're locked into they just basically plug and play. They just update them, send them, fly them over. The main thing is that like the United States has the largest air force in the world. And not only that, but like the U.S. Army, the U.S. Air Force, the Marine Corps, the U.S. Navy. These are three of the just between the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Marines, U.S. Navy. Those are three of the largest air forces in the world by themselves. Then Russia's like fourth or fifth, and then China. I mean, America has, and that's just what's active. That's not what they have in reserves in this graveyard and different stuff. So I mean, literally, America has enough surplus equipment, not just in the United States, but around the world. They can bring destruction upon the planet probably three or four times over. And we're not including the nuclear weapons and the technology and AI and all of the stuff that we have no clue about. There's stuff that's classified that like we have no clue that's available and ready to go. And not just the United States, but in Russia and China and other countries, I wouldn't even worry about a weapons arm build up right now. The main thing I'd be concerned with is war posturing. The fact that Russia and China are both preparing to isolate themselves from the rest of the world. So I mean, it is what it is. The United States is doing the same thing. They're starting to isolate themselves. Europe is starting to build fortifications on the Russian borders. They're talking about building up arms. I mean, Europe doesn't really have to worry about building up weapons, even if they don't have the capacity, like you mentioned before. They don't have the energy infrastructure right now to really do anything, but the United States does. And they're only separated by the ocean of Atlantic, and they can easily ship and fly these things over very quickly. The response time for the United States military, I think it's 72 hours. I'm going to close my door because we got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. You guys can probably hear.
Listen, you say that, but Russia alone is outproducing the entire West 4 times over, plus in artillery, in ammunition, in lots and lots and lots of things. Like all these big, like you can have the USA may have the most powerful air force. I'm not contesting that. It seems to be quite true. You don't win a war with that. You win a war with infantry, with ammunition, with strategy, with logistics. I don't think the USA has all that. And you talk about the USA has the capacity for industrial and military industrial production. Yeah, in theory, maybe, but they don't. They're not capable of. They've expended a lot in this war. They're not able to supply Ukraine with sufficient numbers. They've expended their Patriot supply in not only Ukraine but Israel also.
Israel as well, yeah.
They need to build up. They're not produced. You look at the. I don't have these numbers to hand. It's not my specialism, and didn't know we were going to talk about it. But you look at. I've seen the production figures, like how many tanks are being built, how many rockets of this certain type they can build in a year. And so this really isn't much.
No, I don't disagree with that. But the thing is that doesn't matter when you're in a wartime economy. America's not in a wartime economy. Neither is Europe.
Right.
But if shit came to shove, they can easily ramp up to a wartime. We saw it during COVID, and that was a test run for any type of World War III type scenario.
Sure, but here's the thing: you say it's not a wartime economy. Correct. What it is instead is they oh, we need a new Air Force plane fighter style. Why? Well, it's only going to cost you 9 billion. Sorry, 50 billion. Sorry, 220 billion. Sorry, $400 billion to Lockheed Martin. Please give us the contract for 9 billion. Something like, and it's. I don't know how great it is to have these new next generation fighters. I do know this is a racket, and it's not the,
Oh, it
right.
is. It always is.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is all that military industrial complex is to make money. It's not about winning or fighting wars. We saw this in Vietnam. We saw this in all wars since World War II. Korea's a little bit different. That was a lot of surplus equipment. They still are in that mode. A lot of the soldiers that were, a lot of the officers and veteran military personnel were coming. We're coming from. Did I lose you? Oh, I got Swend in the house. What's up?
Hello, can you hear me well?
I can. We can hear you.
That's
I
good.
think everybody can hear you.
All right.
So we were basically talking about World War II buildup. You're in South America. We're both in Europe. So, and
yes.
basically what I was saying is that, America does have that. They do have the surplus equipment capable. They don't necessarily need the personnel because, like I said, we saw with the new modern warfare, it's cyber and it's drones and it's technology. It's not going to be so much of trench warfare. I mean, we do see some of that in Ukraine, but tell us what's going on with China in South America, what you're seeing down there.
China is building a lot of ports here and critical transport infrastructure. They want to be able to extract a huge amount of fees because all of the transport that goes through those ports is taxed, and some of that revenue goes to the state, and some of that revenue goes to the Chinese company that helped build those ports and infrastructure. So it's a huge cash cow just because of the flow in of itself. And then, yeah, it's they have their own politicians that are loyal to them here because they get bribed in one way or another. And that's what they're doing. They're expanding their sphere of influence here.
Yeah, and that's basically what I was saying, and that's the main reason why we're seeing a lot of activity with Trump with Greenland. That's because of Russia, and with South America, why he's posturing because he doesn't want China gaining any more influence in there. We saw this with the Panama Canal situation, but who do you think's winning and losing the influence down there right now? Because I know Trump gave a bailout to Argentina recently, and I guess they're transferring a lot of their gold to the U.S. faults allegedly. I don't have any verification on
I think,
that.
like if we talk strictly on let's assume all of this geopolitical divides are real. I think America has the edge 100% because China is too far away. Until China has the naval capacity to deploy their navy for 5,000 miles, 8,000 miles here to defend their holdings here, they can't really do much. The best that they could do is try to start some sort of ideological driven armies to try to defend their holdings here, but that's like a far stretch. Like right now America holds most of the dominance. If they wanted to, they can expel China.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you know more than we do because you're there, but I think China and Russia are sitting in as isolationist type situation right now. I think they're trying to prevent America from gaining any more influence in the Asian Pacific, as well as in Europe. That's what I'm seeing right now here in Georgia. Currently, is that's what I'm hearing. At least I don't see it, but I hear it.
I disagree. I think that China and Russia are trying to insulate themselves or isolate themselves. I think they're trying to move away from dependency with the West, say, kind of. I mean, but you look at, for example, Liberation Day, which was a big thing. Big, everyone remember Liberation Day? It's going to change the world. And then it lasted until lunch. I don't even think it got to the early afternoon. By lunch, it was cancelled. Why? Because all the countries around the world, for example, Japan said, America, if you do this, like we can't trade with you. It's not It's not competitive. Like it's going to be a whole new world order. Every country said that, and Trump backed down before lunch, over lunch. You have BRICS, which is now the majority population, and I think the majority GDP. It used to be the other way around. The G7 were the majority GDP and a large chunk of the population. No longer.
Not just GDP, but PPP as well has risen quite a bit as well, and that's a better indicator of economic output.
So the
you are right on that.
BRICS, the global south, they're rising in share relative to, and not only is this a more recent phenomena, they've been rising in share relative to Europe since World War II, since the continent was set ablaze. Like back in 1937, say, Europe was half the world's GDP. Now, is it 8% today? It's the old world was set ablaze.
Yeah, and that's a lot to do with the offshoring and the globalization as well. All I could say is like what I see the trends in North America and South America is that I think we're going to start seeing more regional trading, and that's the main reason that I think that's Trump's policy as well is to get closer ties with South America and build up trading lines between there. It really comes down to it's more efficient, definitely. Between South America, Central America, and North America, there's more than enough resources, human capital, intelligence, technology to trade within these regions. You don't really need to trade with China anymore. It's just not necessary.
Like the housing, the ports, the factories. There's entire industrial parks that are being built right now. Same in Argentina, same elsewhere. Like the whole region is being activated economically, so to say.
By whom? By whose capital?
By Chinese, French, and American capital. Because the French are building, they did it was a scam in my opinion because they charged the government like $34 billion, but they signed a decree. No, well, signed an agreement to build a highway that crosses the center of the country, which is highly in demand to connect the center, which is highlands, with the coast that is it's like, yeah, it's a coast, but the highlands are like usually out of reach. The highways are too cumbersome. The times to get there is too much. So to accelerate the logistics, a central um, a central highway was needed, and the French have come forward and they have said, "Well, we're going to build it. We're going to charge you 34 billion, but it's going to pay it even if it costs that much. It's going to bring back its return on investment for the growth of the economy within less than 5 years. Just that's how much demand there is."
That's usually how it is. It's usually the economies usually build they build infrastructure before they start building economic output.
In which country are you talking, Send, about this French road?
This is in Peru.
Yeah. It's a lot of land. There's a lot of resources like agriculture in South America. I mean, it's a huge continent. It's a very huge continent.
The one thing I would say is one comment that was made by one of you was that America could just kick out the Chinese if they wanted to. Now, in terms of pure capacity, perhaps, but in terms of how it would impact the world order, it's pretty significant. It's like how the EU are trying to and have stolen. Sorry, they haven't stolen. Of course not. That would be wrong. They have indefinitely frozen Russian assets, and they're now seeking to expropriate it and use it for.
Yeah, it's about how bold. It's about how bold the West is willing to be. Trump is getting bolder and bolder with his rhetoric. And so if Trump goes into an incursion in Venezuela or he takes down Maduro via drone strike or whatever, if they do change the regime in Venezuela, then it's a pretty safe bet that they will try to do the rest with the countries in South America. Our country, I'm telling you, like our political elite, it's 100% embedded with America. They have them. They have them in their pocket. Like the next president, or the person who is projected to be the next president, who is like a conservative kind of Trump figure, similar kind of like Milei. He's aligned with the West, with Europe, with like he's not dismissive of China, but he sees them as like a cooperative economic partner more than like ideological ally. He's ideologically aligned with America.
I definitely see that. It's like Europe is the same way. Everybody, like European leaders are lining with America. I mean, it's just kind of historic, I guess, over the last 50, 60 years since the was it
Since
Monroe Doctrine?
1945.
Yeah, we're talking about Monroe Doctrine now, right? Pretty much in this regard.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But Trump itself, Trump is not a China hawk. Trump to be this anti-China guy, but he's not. Like he signed a decree. Yeah, well, he signed an agreement to bring in 2 million Chinese students to
I think it was
maintain.
600,000 a year.
Oh yeah, well, he wants to ramp it up. But yeah, I think you're right. It's 600,000 right now, but they
So
need those Chinese students for the colleges in America to keep them alive.
no, I mean, they don't. The colleges.
Well, that's what he said, dude. That's what Trump said.
That's what Trump says. Trump's a dirty liar. like, you speak to Americans, and they say, "I can't get placements at these good universities because all the Chinese foreign students, for example, who are paying." It was the same. I went to the largest student university in the UK, of which the majority were all Chinese, were all foreign, and a majority of the foreigners were Chinese. Why? Because if you're native, the UK universities were charging 9,000 something pounds, and to the Chinese they were charging 25, 30, 40,000. So they could charge more, so they did. I think whatever, like my degree, I don't think it costs. I have no idea how much it costs because it's such a criminally poor run, administered institution that I'm sure they are paying some like cleaner $1 million just to just to not clean. That's how terrible it is. So I don't know, like if it was, I don't think, like I don't know how much it costs, and I know that the UK has a very socialist, communist education system where you're paying for other people's education, especially if you're doing a social
Is it
studies degree.
ideological in any way? Like, or if
it was so ideological. It was. I was the top student. I was the top economist at the University of Manchester, being marked down every single assignment for ideological reasoning. I'm like, this is so crap. So yeah, but the point is that these places in MIT, for example, they've got a huge endowment. They don't need the Chinese students, but the Chinese students, they can charge more. I heard that the Chinese students this clause was actually a contractual negotiation that Trump conceded, saying, China, please, we need you to sell us TikTok. You need to sell it to Larry Ellison or whomever. And China said, all right, but we want 500,000 of our students to come to your universities. He said, okay, so long as Israel can control TikTok and control the youths, we will allow this to occur. I don't know if that's true. I think I heard it on some X somewhere.
Comment this really quickly. I think Israel trying to acquire TikTok is dumb, because the way in which the semantic meaning in which you can express the message you want to suppress, what they want to suppress is anti-Jewish messaging being mainstream of TikTok. The problem is that you can express that meaning in so many ways that it's impossible to ban it, even with AI, because it gets so abstract. It will show you like a little mouse hugging a coin, and people will get the meaning. You know what I mean? It's like they can't really ban what they want to ban. They want to diminish its reach for sure. They want to have moderators that are able to kill the video as it's getting viral.
Right. It's not about stamping it out totally. You can't do that, but just suppression, censorship, just keeping it managed. If you can increase the capacity to manage and control, they will. And you say Israel. It's not Israel. It's American. It's American Jews, American Jewish oligarchs like Larry Ellison and whomever else. Yeah, you can't say Israel, of course.
I think before Israel was like, I mean, how did Israel declare war on Germany if it didn't have a country back then?
Oh, Judea. Well, Jewry did, but
Yeah, yeah.
you can't start the history there. They had good reason to. They had good reason to. Interesting history indeed.
Yep. Well, we were talking before. What were you saying before that? Before we got into that track?
I was talking about how the EU are so bold as to try and steal money, and then we went into uh, being more bold with American rhetoric and worrisome trends.
Have they started? Have they started redistributing that money that they took from Russia yet, or no?
They have. It is believed that they have, but they've claimed. They say no. We've taken the interest payments. Now that interest is legally Russia's, but they say, oh, we've taken the interest. We haven't touched the principal. And then you say, well, how did you find this money? I said, well, so there's great suspicion that they absolutely have tapped into the principal, and then what they're trying to do is go further and to use that principal as collateral for a loan to Ukraine, which no one wants to buy into that. You can't issue euro bonds like that. It's just so illegal and foolish and futile, and that's what they're up to.
Yeah, 100%. That money,
Illegal.
that money that they want to take. Um, yeah, I don't think. I'm not sure what will happen there. I'm not sure.
Well, Russia has already initiated legal challenges in multiple jurisdictions, including a European court, whether it's the ECJ or the ECHR. I'm not certain because I heard two different things. They've done one in Moscow, and I think they have the right to under the arbitration clause. I think they're doing one in Singapore. They're doing it in
Really,
multi-jurisdictions.
listen.
First off,
Go ahead.
Mhm.
I was
Oh,
gonna
I
say,
was
like,
going to say,
I think that the legally the EU can't do it. Like, there is just no way under any legal framework they have any sort of legal standing to do what they want to do because there is no law for did you start war with Ukraine? We take your money. It's not in the clause. It's not in any legal framework. They can't do it.
there's like one kind of legal framework for that, which is an act of nature. You invade it, especially if you say like frustration of purpose. But it would be making it up and changing the rules as you go on. But listen, I actually, as an international lawyer, I have had experience with EU courts, including the European Court of Human Rights, the United Nations, all mechanisms in Europe, and I can say there's one way for them to do it, which is they're all criminal. They don't give a shit. So this is why Russia, I think, I've heard that they've initiated one proceeding in a European venue, but generally they're doing it outside of European jurisdiction because the European garden is full of fraud and crap, and they don't give a shit. They don't care about law. They don't care about rules and procedures. It's all just smoke up their, backside, and there is no justice under these scumbags, especially when it's political. Especially when it's political.
There is justice. It's just us.
Hey, Professor Red Pill and Adam, I have to go now, but it's been nice to be with you for a little bit of time. I have some compromises to attend to. But thank you guys for all of the year that we spent together, and Happy New Year to all of you.
Yes, sir. Happy New Year, man.
All right, see ya.
See ya. Yeah, so where am I at now? We're at an hour and 12 minutes to the new year here in Tabarisi. Getting close. So you're still about 3 hours from the new year. What do you think's going to happen with the new year? Do you think it's going to be fun times? Do you think it's going to be like yeah, it's going to get better? Or do you think it's going to get worse? Or what's your overall?
I do believe it's going to continue just along the same channel. The trend is your friend until it ends.
Yeah.
There is no, there is no evidence of the trend changing. It's and this is what we talk about: collapse, coexisting, decay, just going on, going on. It's not good. It's not the worst thing ever. Hopefully, I mean, I'm hoping that my personal circumstances will improve, and I'm hoping that because my personal circumstances improve, perhaps the state of the world will too, because I am the center of the universe, and and hopefully all that negative suffering will have a positive karmic spin. But that's obviously a joke. I think just everything everything sucks. Again, what's important is not that, and this is what I led with, that what's important is not to allow those external continued decay and negative progression be the defining feature of how what's going forward. Instead, sustain daily output, self-improvement, maturity development, and this is really the thing that's important for everyone to focus on.
Yeah. I think that's I think it's going to get I think, like I said, I was predicting like a market correction towards the end of 2025. Said collapse 2025. I think we did see a little bit of that, but the main thing that we're looking at is, let me see if I could bring something up here. What is Dow up? Dow Jones. It's up a little bit, but the year to date, it's up 13% for year to date. Which isn't too bad, but what would you estimate the rate of inflation was for 2025 off the top of your head?
I don't know. I haven't looked at. I don't have any data to go off, and so I'm not going to speculate.
So it says
so many ways you can measure that.
Yeah, the raw numbers I've got here. Global inflation slowing in 2025. So the IMF projected a 4.5% inflation rate for 2025 so far.
Okay, yeah, but there's real inflation, shadow inflation. There's affordability. There's, for example, perhaps the tofu meat, which is soy, is only gone up by 2%. Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe it's gone up by 20%. But for example, beef maybe has gone up by 30%. And if you enjoy good food, real food, then your cost of living may have gone up 25% as well. Maybe your rent's gone up and your utility bills. Where do you live? So all these things. I'd be surprised if the cost of, if the amount that you're spending this year versus last year is only a 5% difference. I'd be amazed.
Yeah. I mean, the Dow, like I said, it's up 13%. What was, let's see, I want to compare and contrast a little bit.
So there's a question, which is, okay, the Dow is up 13%. Okay, is that just asset inflation? Because that may be a better...
That's what I was saying is like the asset inflation. Because what I'm trying to offset is basically what's the so Dow's up 14%, but what was the inflation rate, and then how did assets inflate with that? That's what I mean. So compare. I mean, is it breaking even? That's what I'm saying. I don't want to make a bold statement and say that. Oh well,
Well, if you don't own shares like me, because you're broke, then it's like the assets get higher. The buy, you could buy 10 shares of Nvidia, and now you can't even afford half a share. Good luck. How's that going to work out for you over the long run? Look, time in the market is worth more than when you kind of buy in, or what price you buy in. Just being in the market, and if you're broke, and your costs are going up, and you don't have property like this, then it's getting worse and worse. If you have assets, if you've got gold, silver, stocks, real estate, income generating capacity, then maybe it's fine.
Yeah, because if I'm sharing this tab here, let me see. Present this, yeah, because you can see silver's up 144%, 147% year to date.
Yeah, so about 2.5 times.
So we're gonna put all the stuff in here: U.S. dollar, Dow Jones, S&P, crude oil, and Bitcoin as a matrix. So what does that paint for you? So you see all of these metrics. This is year to date. We can do 1 year is fine. And you see silver here, 148 year, 1 year. Then that's 1 year. So it's actually up 148% over a year. And we look at these matrix. Let's go ahead and take Bitcoin for instance. So we see, hold on, where's my metrics? So we're towards the end here. And it looks like Dow Jones 14%, S&P is 17%, which isn't bad. So obviously Dow Jones and S&P probably beat inflation. I haven't checked shadow stats yet to see what the real inflation rate is. Crude is down 20%, and I said it's at $57 a barrel, $60 a barrel. If you remember, I said that at the beginning of this year that crude would probably be around that time. It would be probably around $50 to $60 a barrel by the end of the year. I was spot on. And I also predicted silver hitting $80 an ounce. It actually exceeded that. I think it hit 85 recently in the last 2 weeks, in the last quarter, or the last month rather, in December. So it exceeded what I predicted. I did not see Bitcoin dipping down to $87 or 87. Sorry.
It's just winding around that 100K key level of significance. Right. It goes up 20K, it's going down 20K, and until there is a break, a decisive break, the trend shall continue until it ends. And it's just I'm saying this without looking at any charts. This is just standard technical analysis. Yeah. It's just it's like a solenoid around that 100K figure.
Yeah. Obviously, silver and gold outperformed the rest of the market. And like I said, I bought silver and gold during COVID, like during the lockdown. I bought as much silver as I could buy, and I didn't sell any of it. I sold a little bit before I left America a year ago, and I made a good profit. And then I sold a little bit more right before summer. I sold a little bit. I went back to the States and I sold a little bit to pay for my transportation and some rents and stuff like that. But I still made a good profit. And then the rest I held. I was like, I'm not selling this. I'm holding on to this. And I bought some gold. Actually, I traded silver for gold. That's usually what you do. You usually trade silver for gold. So, yeah, I did pretty well actually. And I'm up. So that's good. But as far as crypto, I mean, we saw at the beginning of the year it was up quite a bit last year and this year. It was up a lot. I was up probably 150%. That's a good spot. But I mean, obviously gold and silver. If you bought silver at the beginning of the year, you could have probably profited quite a bit compared to crypto. I think it outperformed crypto from the last 2 years as well. So, I mean, what do these indications tell you? Because I mean, we see that silver obviously is as we began the podcast today. Silver's an industrial metal, and it has a lot of indications with that. But what do you see the trends are with silver and gold going into 2026? Like an indication. What does it tell
Trend
us?
is your friend until it ends. I think they got more to go. I mean, I don't think silver's stopping until it's $100. And I'm saying this without looking at any charts or analysis or listening to people that are professionals here. I'm not because not because I have any special knowledge, because I don't have any capital. I am not taking the time to do any study. I'm not in the market. I have no reason to be in the market because I don't have any money or any income capacity. So all I've seen is the thumbnail for the market sniper, Francis Hunt, who says, gold and silver are going parabolic. You will probably sell too early. I'm like, okay, wow, an hour-long video. When I was in the market back in 2020, 21, before the UK government destroyed all my economics, I would watch him religiously. And I would learn, I would study, and I would know what I'm talking about in markets. And I think he's the best quantitative analyst, strategist that I've listened to. His technical analysis is fantastic. He's got maybe two things wrong in the 6-7 years that I've watched him, and he says as soon as he said, the facts have shown that I was wrong on this, so I've changed it. And another time he said, I missed this idea. Now we've seen it, we adapt. So that's yeah. So I think that to me, $100 for silver sounds reasonable, and $5,000 for gold, just key levels of significance. And of course there's going to be volatility there, but I don't think it's a difficult prediction to say gold 5,000, silver 100, and something about a gold silver ratio. Right now it's like 4,300 gold, 80 silver. I'm not sure exactly what the ratio is, but I think 20% plus on the gold gets you to 5,000, and 20% up on the silver. Yeah, 5,000, 5,100. Those are both another 20% increase. Not difficult. Easy prediction.
Yeah.
Not as well. I talk about this gold silver ratio again. Chart it. I'm sure it's not a static thing, but it's an important metric. What I think is going on is this decay, that modern decay, and a hollowing out of values is the problem here. That modernity, mass politics, egalitarian moralism, and herd psychology has eroded aristocratic ethics, and as a result, it is inevitable institutional decay. Even if there is some material abundance in certain parts of society, there is a dissolution of necessity, an erosion of discipline, a removal of existential stakes, and a replacement of form with comfort. It's flies in the face of the transcendent order, and as a result, engineers these problems as inevitable as and things just get worse and worse because you don't have alignment with these ontological truths. You don't have classical virtues. You don't have civilizational pride and particularism. You just have mass liberal democracy. And everything we're seeing is a result of mass liberal democracy. And that's why it sucks, and that's why it shall continue to suck, and that's why it shall continue to get worse and won't improve until something is done about mass liberal democracy. And I don't see anything going on that's really having impact there, other than, again, this Weimar problems, Weimar solutions. There is seemingly a resurgence of, especially in the dissident right space, of a form of civilizational particularism, but it's not really being articulated quite so well with a proper metaphysical grounding. It's mostly just manifesting in racism and nationalism and ethno-nationalism. And personally, I'm not an anti racist. In fact, I would probably classify myself as a racist. But I wouldn't. I call myself a civilizational particularist. I think you need to focus on civilization rather than. Yeah, I mean, you listen to that Austin School guy, Roy. He's a terrible historian on YouTube, and he says nationalism means you hate other people and you believe yourself necessarily superior and you want to go and kill them. And I said that's. Why is this a definition of nationalism? Oh, it's a post-war liberal consensus. Actually, nationalism is to believe in a natio, in a people, and you don't have to have that supremacism to it to have pride in the people and to want to preserve and continue and persist that which defines you and your people and your culture and your nation. I agree with all that, but I'm also. I think that you need to have a right to exit. And so I think you need to expand that concept to a more of a civilizational membrane concept, meaning if you hate France, but you're French ethnically, I see no problem in you going to Austria or Italy or Sweden or Bulgaria or Portugal or America. I think it's all one and the same civilization, and I don't really want to get into like the margins, just that's the principle of it. I think the point is there needs to be a resurgence of these classical virtues, and this was destroyed necessarily in between 1939 and 1945, destroyed at the behest of the Anglo-Americans, especially London and Churchill. And we are living in this post-1945 order, which is the inversion of everything good. This is the worst possible timeline, and that is really what's being addressed in Ukraine, because Russia has said, we're not going to sit down, lay down and take this while you fantasize about raping our country, stealing our resources, strategically defeating us and in our own backyard.
Yeah.
In our own backyard. So we have now the power to stand firm against you in this, because we can assert ourselves militarily. You don't have any legitimacy anymore because you're so hollowed out and weak and liberalized. So no, we're going to reassert our civilizational order. And it's right and justified. That's really the solution, is this reassertion of being.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it retards growth and innovation, I think. Nationalism, I believe, I think the biggest trend now, or like the biggest like philosophy as far as geopolitical philosophy or like political theory, is maybe we should revert back to aristocratic societies, like maybe an aristocratic. Not necessarily democratic, but yeah, I guess democratic.
Not democratic.
Non-democratic aristocratic.
Democratic, bad.
I mean, because let's look at it from philosophical or historical context. What was the most prosperous time in European history? Was during the aristocratic, after the fall of the Roman Empire. Wasn't it the medieval period?
I would say pre Augustus Caesar Rome was pretty up there.
Yeah.
You can say you can say Renaissance was pretty up there, I'm sure too. Or you could also say late 19th century.
What about Alexander the Great? Alexander the Great. That was...
He's like 400 BC, 300, like 4th century BC. I would not classify that as the height of European power and whatnot, but certainly, I mean, there were worse times to be around.
I'm not speaking about power-wise. I'm just speaking particularly about administration, innovation, and economic growth and expansion, like scalability.
So, good questions. I don't know enough about things. I do know that, militarily... Philip II, Alexander's father, he did a lot of state building, consolidation, state building, advancement, growth, military reformation, and this was a major aspect that facilitated Alexander's astronomical rise to take over the. Philip kind of consolidated Macedonia region. Alexander then went to consolidate what was effectively the rest of the unknown world, going all the way to Afghanistan. All the way maybe to India even, and then on his way back and defeating the Persians or whatever they were called then, all over the Middle East, all over, phenomenal stuff. Good for him. And then it all fractured and broke down after, but it transformed the world over there because it brought Greek and Hellenism everywhere. And then you had a renaissance is the wrong word, but you had a lot of development in culture, innovation, technology because of the spread of Greek culture traditions, civilization.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the other thing too is like you look at like Persian empires, you look at like Roman empires, and a lot of these ancient empires that created into modern empires. But the one thing that they had in common was, yes, they were a bit nationalistic because of the culture influence, but they also allowed they not only they gained influence and power within the regions, like physically, and they still allowed these entities or these cultures to thrive within their greater empire. So I mean, when you think of like the question or the comment that you came up with nationalism, who was the individual that you were speaking of, the influencer, by the way?
He's an influencer professor, Dr. Roy something G, I think, from the Austin School.
Mm. So he said that nationalism was basically what, like fascist, or
his definition of nationalism was racial supremacy.
Oh, okay. So obviously you could basically shoot that down with regards to Mongolian Empire, who invaded. They did conquer, but at the same time, he Genghis Khan. If I'm pronouncing his name correctly, I know that
Genghis Khan.
There you go.
Whatever you want to, Genghis Khan. Yeah.
I like I said, I'm an academic. I teach. I'm a professor, but like I mess names up. I'm not good at pronouncing names a lot of times. There is a particular way to pronounce it, but the point that I'm getting to is that he was very diplomatic, and he was very sympathetic towards different cultures, religions, and ideology, races, and he allowed them to basically continue their practice, their religious practice and cultural heritage. But he
graped them.
Grape. Oh, what a grape! Yeah. No, but that's just the first start of it, and then they have the Persian Empire, and then the Roman Empire, and like I said, the Roman Empire, it encompassed Asian Minor and Egypt, and they still allowed the Egyptians to kind of practice their customs and culture, still with a Romanistic cultural influence. But I mean, it stretched across all of Europe, like I said, into like I said, in Asian Minor and all that. So, and these were the edge of the empire. The thing is the further you got away from Rome, the less nationalistic and Romanistic it was. But there was still influence. There were still taxes that were collected, militaries, that were posted at the edge of the empires. But like I said, the further you got away from Rome, it was less and less severe as far as the nationalistic or the cultural influence, but it was still relevant. That's where like I just don't agree with him in that regard. From speaking from the classics or the ancient civilizations. And you see this with the modern American empire today, that we're talking about this and about wars, possible wars and things of this nature, that's the war posturing. But the American empire is like that. They gain influence, control, trade deals, nation building and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're not really enforcing the American culture upon the places that I would say could technically say conquered, because they conquered Korea, they conquered Japan, they conquered Germany with the help of Soviet Union. So I mean, and the thing is you look at these modern civilizations today, Japan and Korea have adopted a lot of American culture and identity, and there's still a strong influence. I mean, we have our military bases stationed in their countries, Germany as well. So I mean, it's yeah. I mean, would you say that it's racist, or would you say, you know, like but I mean, at the same time, there's still
there is racial, like like why do we not give a crap about the war that's happened in Yemen over the past however long, and all the dead people in Libya and Iraq, but in Ukraine all of a sudden, oh my god, like yeah, there's racial elements to it. Is that wrong? Like, listen, if I was Moroccan and there's a war going on in Algeria, I'd care a lot more about the war that's going on in Algeria, or you know, in the Gambia, because there's less of a neighborly connection there.
Well, it's still regional.
Gambia is still on the. This is what the Gambia is much more south than Morocco. It's still on the west coast, so that's why I picked it.
It's still on the Mediterranean, so it still kind of encompasses the region. They do share.
Think the Gambia is Mediterranean. It's west coast. But it's like
well, it's starting to get sub-Saharan kind of area.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's still connections. Yeah, there's still.
Well, the point is,
religiously, but yeah, go ahead.
In-group preference is a good thing. It's a virtue. You shouldn't. It's wrong to demonize in-group preference. It goes against transcendent order. It's not. This is why I say it's not a bad thing. It's a bad thing how it manifests. I'm not a national socialist. I think that's a bad form of it. But you know, the big controversy going on right now is all the, oh my god, look at all this fraud going on in Minnesota to the tune of billions so far. So yeah, well, you know, what do you expect? You're inviting in tons of Somalians, and you don't have a shitty welfare system that allows them to game it and say, oh yeah, all my children are autistic. Please give me welfare checks. Okay. Oh yeah, we've set up 1,000 daycare centers. Oh okay, have $1 million each. Oh, thanks. All right, let's go buy some cars.
But I mean, we did see that was posted in the Liberty Rising group on the Straight Talk News channel, as well as Gonzalo Lira group. But I see maybe in a generation or two, they become productive members of the culture. But it's that transition. It's possible. It's possible. I mean,
I'm far more racist than you.
I think it's possible. But I mean, the thing is it's. I think the liberals are pushing too much, and I don't like using liberals because liberal in Europe is a different term. It's a different political ideology or political term, definitely. But I'm saying the progressives, they want to push, and they're actually pushing these people to speak this way or to be. So I think they are. I think it's mostly progressives pushing them to be
correct, but it's not just progressives. It's liberalism. It's this moral universalism.
That's what I mean. Democratic
we have
liberalism,
pushed away from civilization. We've pushed away from this transcendent order, from form, hierarchy, spiritual orientation, and cultural style. This is what Julius Evola talks about in Revolt Against the Modern World, this traditionalist metaphysics. When you have this numerical egalitarianism and the mass mixtures as measures of value, it has civilizational impact, it has decay, not because foreign equals evil, but because scale alters form. I've spoken to some wonderful Ethiopians about Ethiopia when I was in Africa 7 years ago, and they say great things about Ethiopia. Great. Sounds great. Like, I go to Ethiopia, I'm going to respect that. I'm going to treat Ethiopians like individuals, just like everyone else. Sounds great. I'm pleased for them and their civilization. I also don't want Ethiopians where I live in Europe because it's an alien civilization. It's not. That's just an organic. It's just organic, right? As soon as you have, especially mass immigration, you're changing structure, and that's you're losing form, you're losing hierarchy, you're losing cultural style, you're replacing this organic order with mass presence. So it's not fear, it's not confusion, it's not incoherence to champion your civilization.
So would you agree? I mean, would you agree that like nation building and sending money and aid and helping to build up infrastructure in a foreign country is better than emigrating these individuals to countries not of their culture or background?
Probably, but you can also question about that. It's like, okay, let's say there's a phenomenal doctor from Mogadishu and he's in Poland. Maybe he can do a lot for Poland as a doctor. Maybe he's a great member of society, law-abiding, disciplined, upstanding, noble. I would, and maybe he can cure a lot of more people, do a lot more good being in Poland, saving. Okay, also Mogadishu's lost one of their most aristocratic, meaning best people, someone who would have improved that country, who would give access to medical services. And okay, maybe he can't be a specialist neurosurgeon. If that's what he was, maybe he was given the opportunity to do that in Poland, and maybe he can send money. I don't know. It's not cut and dry. Because I'm not an intolerant bigot. There's nuance here. I don't think, like we were just talking before this podcast started about how there are some talented professors in your country who were just kicked out collectively by the government because of the passport that they had. I think that's bad. I think it should be more individual, especially when you're dealing with not mass, you're dealing with elite specialization. I'm not xenophobic, meaning fear of foreign. I have aesthetic, civilizational, and environmental rejection.
So would you agree that the H-1 or the H-1B visa is beneficial to the United States, or would you disagree with that statement?
There are benefits, but no, especially not how it's being done. No, especially because it's being done not for the benefit of the USA, but for the benefit of the elites who are able to import foreigners to compete and suppress wages, to stimulate aggregate demand, to push up the prices of assets, and to print money and welfare. And this weakens the demos, the people, the nation, increases division, causes social problems, especially when you combine that with all the other liberal policies like, oh, you've been arrested 13 times, I'm going to let you out so you can go stab people and set them on fire. And it's all done deliberately. All right? You can say, oh, it is. They're not stupid, they're evil.
What I'm saying is like the H-1B H-1B visa. You got me. It's bringing the best talent to a nation state, but they're on a temporary basis.
Is it?
It's what I mean. They're on a temporary basis, so they're not meant to stay there permanently.
Are they?
I mean, if we go from an aristocratic standpoint, the GCC, how they practice immigration, they do bring in specialists. They bring in top people to work, and not necessarily top people as well. But it's controlled. It's a controlled immigration. And then like in Saudi Arabia, they're starting to open up, and those people that came in, like I came to Saudi Arabia. I've been in the region for 15, going on 17, 18 years now. And I trained a lot of people. I trained a lot of people under my tutelage and helped a lot of people learn English and learn trades and whatnot. And now we're leaving. Like I left Saudi Arabia. I'm not there anymore, obviously, because these people are trained, and now they've taken positions and they've taken jobs, and they no longer need foreign staff or foreign people to do these jobs anymore. So in a sense, like immigrants can do good, but it has to be maybe mitigated through an aristocratic or some type of policy, like you're saying, to enforce proper procedures.
It's mismanaged. It's mismanaged by the liberal democracy, and it's not done with the right incentives. Right? This is what I'm saying. I don't claim genetic inferiority. I don't claim collective guilt. I don't seek the desire for violence or exclusion by force. However, I'm not an ideological R word, revisionist. that's the word I'm looking for. Sure. Right? I have obvious preference for ordered, historically continuous environments. I have an aversion to disorder, crime, and civic decay. I have a rejection of forced demographic transformation. That's civilizational selection, not ethnic hatred. So mass migration, it's a disruption. That disruption produces alienation. The demographic turnover is breaking intergenerational continuity and temporal coherence. And again, it's being done for the interest of the capital owners in order to weaken the lower and middle class, in order to extract more wealth to the political people, in order to weaken society, create division, because in order to harm you. And then they're doing it, they're doing it as under this post-war liberal egalitarianism, which has a taboo against these ontological and transcendent truths of hierarchy, distinction, and preference. You're not allowed to discriminate. So you say, "Oh, we're bringing in the best." I say, "Are you? Are we?" It's not what I'm seeing, because you're not actually allowed to distinguish. Instead, you have to kind. It's a false ideology. It doesn't clarify reality. It attempts to enforce compliance. And we see a reduction in sanitation, in norm violations. We see an increase in norm violations, an increase in social decay, an increase in boundary collapse. Civilizations rely on disgust responses to maintain order. To be opposed to these things is not intolerance. It's particular. It's rational, normative, rational. It's historically typical. This is the environment necessary to remain a civilization.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at pre World War, was it pre World War One migration of Irish into the United States? It was there was a lot of, I wouldn't say like bigotry or xenophobia was the best term to use, but 2 or 3 generations later, and like now the Irish are a productive member of society in America, and they there's politicians like John F. Kennedy, for instance, who's of that cast, and I mean, there are good, there are bad, but the question. I think the theory is like what is the solution that we get to? What is the happy medium? And again, we're speaking this from a liberal democracy point of view, but now we're trying to use it an aristocratic point of view to try to see if there's a better viable option with aristocratic viewpoint instead of liberal democracy.
So the better viable view, I mentioned that I was doing a lot of intellectual maturity and philosophical development. I believe I've come up with a solution, which is, as we approach the end of 2025, and you got 30 minutes more, I was looking back through my year on Telegram, say, and I was looking to reflect and see, like, what are the themes of what I'm posting about. And I've identified that not only is there a theme there's actually a unique synthesis and a novel stream of anarcho-capitalism, of post-libertarian theory, which I'm calling civilizational voluntarism, or CivVol for short. This is the solution. Very much so, like, it's not so novel. In fact, it's a synthesis, but it's a novel synthesis. I look at Nietzsche, Vola, Hoppe, anarcho-capitalism. I look at what works. I look at my studies of history. I look at my own personal experience, say, like I grew up in North London. When I grew up as a child, the English primary school I went to had limited but considerable ethnic variation, but still within a dominant, coherent local culture. I mean, I would say a third of the class were foreign, and maybe half were English and half were kind of in between, say. But there was still kind of a stable host culture with minority participation. 30 years ago, it was much more English, and it was where I grew up. It became a lot more Greek and Turkish and Indian. But as a school, growing up in the early noughties in pre-progressive multiculturalism, there was the assumption of assimilation into local norms, of behavioral reciprocity, and an absence of the moral inversion of the host culture. It was still, this minority presence was within a supposedly a legible English social frame. But it's just got so much worse. It's no longer plurality within continuity. Now there's a demand that the majority apologize for existing. There's institutional privileging of difference. There's erosion of the common identity. And especially you look at how things are today, demographics, not just in my former primary school, but large-scale demographic replacement plus this progressive ideological framing. You have an inclusion orthodoxy embedded in the state framework, such that the majority culture is no longer assumed as baseline. It's no longer normative. Difference is no longer descriptive, but normative. Institutions are teaching identity before competence or continuity. Increasing diversity is no longer additive, it is transformative and substitutive. We're not being asked to enjoy more people, but to enjoy the disappearance of a cultural frame you belong to, of your people, of your culture, of your history. Yes, more diversity can equal more enrichment if you have a stable host culture remaining intact, if that difference is able to integrate within it, and if you don't have these ideological forces reinterpreting history, norms, and identity. That's just not the case today.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Definitely agree. I mean, like I said, I see it from my perspective as like I wouldn't necessarily call myself an immigrant, but I guess what do you call me, a Chad Pat or whatever it's called?
well, it's like if you move from a poor country to a more wealthy country, you're an immigrant. If you move from Western Europe anywhere else, you're an expat.
Yeah, expat. Yeah, that's what they refer to us. I mean,
it's racist, by the way.
That's racist. I don't feel that way here, man. I get treated a little bit different, but I mean, like, still, I'm kind of treated the same as everyone else. It seems like. Maybe if I went to like a less developed country, it probably might feel a little bit different. But in Europe, like especially like Eastern Europe or like Eurasia is where I'm at. I think it's developed enough to where, like, because it's a middle developed country, kind of like where you're at in Bulgaria. I imagine that you're kind of treated like a regular European, and there might be some slight cultural differences, but for the most part, they identify you as European, and it's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't feel special.
Yeah, and maybe that's a lot. I would say I'm in the Red Pill community, obviously Professor Red Pill. And they talk about this passport bro stuff, and I just don't believe it, and I think it's BS. But a lot of these guys are like, oh, I'm going to go to like this other country and see what the women are like and all this and see what the culture's like, and I'm going to be like this really cool hip dude. And it's like they get here and they're like, womp, 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 because it's like, dude, you're just a normal Joe. You know what I mean? Let's see. Let me see. Sa, allow me to explain your people's culture and how this includes me. Sa, who is it? Is this one of your guys or just my guy?
Thanks for supporting. Thanks for the comment. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. DC, I put him up earlier. Like he's saying Happy New Year. Great predictions for the next year. Yep. Yeah, we're trying. We're doing our best, man.
So yeah, it's the import of alien, of not internal. It's a result of this egalitarian ideology and mass mixture, and it has civilizational impact. It's not because foreign equals evil, but because scale alters form. You can have a small number integrating into a higher order, but a large number reconstitutes the order. So, that's xenophobic. You're Islamophobic. No, phobia, irrational fear, it's disgust. It's an instinctive repulsion as a response to a formlessness, vulgarity, and degeneration. It's a recognition of civilizational decline, not irrational hatred. And the way that you evaluate that civilizational decline is by looking at form, hierarchy, spiritual orientation, and cultural style, not by abstract moral universalism. What's his name? Raw Egg Nationalist tweeted yesterday, "There's only one race, the human race." I said, "What about the 400 meter? What about the baton? Like, what are you trying to say with this tweet? It doesn't make sense." If an immigrant comes over and they're, listen, I'm an immigrant. I'm not even an immigrant. I'm a refugee. I'm a failed refugee. I just don't get any benefits or any benefit at all. If you see law-abiding behavior, cleanliness, strong internal norms, family structure, low public disorder, cultural self-restraint, great. This is an organic community with internal discipline, as opposed to like the masses, which is produced by maternity, uprooted and formless. There's a difference. There is a substantive and structural difference between order and disorder. And that is what civilizational voluntarism is all about. It is taking anarcho-capitalism, which has a lot of theory in books and here, it's all over, but it's also kind of agnostic to some of these questions. It's been written out by this person, this person, this person. I'm kind of taking them together and saying, okay, listen, it's not like anarcho-capitalism isn't about being materialistic. It's not about having this liberal universalism where you reject these things. It's about establishing order by making some of those beliefs that are not personal preference, by the way. It's aligned with transcendent orders. It's about order without force, as opposed to disorder, which can degenerate. And it comes back to, you've asked me some questions about history.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to the ancient Greek, there is not what is anarchy. There's some dirty words. There's anarchy. There's anarchy. There's anarchy. There's three different. There's an absence of order. There's an absence of rulers, and then there's mob rule. I think those are the three, and they're substantially different because you have virtue and order and hierarchy embedded in the Greek words themselves, whereas we don't have that now. Maybe as a deliberate thing. Maybe as a deliberate thing. So the point is that in-group preference is structural. It's not pathological. If you have shared norms, a shared civilizational grammar, predictable conduct, organic loyalty, attachment to your own civilizational lineage, that is virtuous. And liberal ideology demands its negation, whereas traditional order has always preserved it. And it is that total moral inversion that's come about in the post-war synthesis led by America, as well as the communist subversives also, who've encouraged it, and Yuri Bezmenov was right. So this has come in to Europe and America, and it's just become so absurd. It's created lots of problems.
So the thing is like what I'm noticing, like in the European Union now, I don't know if it's the entire European Union, but it's from what I'm seeing in perspective here in Georgia, is that they're starting to mitigate immigration now. I know Poland is one of the forefront on this, but I'm starting to see it here where they're starting to try to prevent people from coming in from certain countries. Even expats, like even guys like me that have been here a while, we're starting to see it seems like they're trying to make it more difficult, not necessarily for us to come here, but just in particular, like with the nationalization of, they're looking out for their people, so to speak, like for jobs and things of that nature. We talked about this. I don't want to get too far into it, but what are you seeing in Bulgaria, like in this regard? Are you seeing any type of nationalist movement or like immigration? Like
there's nationalism, but it's in Bulgaria. I think I'm not so sure, but I think there's like elite struggle. It's mostly internal, just corruption. Just the courts are terrible. The politicians are all mafia, like every other country, by the way. But it's just very obvious here. They're like, "Oh, we're going to raise your taxes," and everyone's like, "Come on, no, don't do that," because it's just such an obvious grift. And but Bulgaria is a shrinking country. Not shrinking as much as Ukraine, for example, but Bulgaria 30 years ago had 10 million people, and now it has 7. And it's shrinking. There was something I read a while ago that said, "Oh yeah, we're going to start importing Indians," and I haven't seen any. I don't know what happened about that. But the
We have a
problem
lot
is not.
here. We have a lot here in Georgia. A lot. Yeah. But continue what you're saying. I'm sorry.
I have no idea because it's now in Schengen. If someone wants to move from anywhere in Europe, they can. If you've got a European residency, you can, but honestly, unless you love the country for the geography, for the food, for the culture, for the people, these are all good reasons to love Bulgaria, by the way. Unless there's an opportunity here for you, I don't know why you'd come. It's a beautiful country. It's a great place to exist. I love being here. There are lots of benefits, but it's no longer as affordable as it once was. Maybe it is elsewhere. People tell me that groceries in Vienna sometimes are more affordable than here in Sofia. I'm like, damn, that's not great. I don't know how true that is because I haven't traveled and don't and can't. But and again, the geography is beautiful. The people, it's a great place to live and exist. But in terms of economic opportunity, it's just not that attractive for most people, I would imagine.
Yeah. Everything that you've said is like basically what's going on here as well. Unless you have like family or you have, opportunity or certain things that like draw you to this country, most locals will tell you, like, ask you what you're doing here because it's like there's a lot better opportunities in other countries. And like I said, hold on one second. Sorry about that. Yeah, one of the main things that I hear all the time is they're like, well, why are you here? Why did you come to Georgia of all places? And I'm like, well, I've been here a long time. I came here because of the affordability at first. Not just the affordability, but just I was younger. I was in my 20s. So I wanted to kind of experience like what it was like to live in, other countries and would live and work. And I was working in multiple different countries before I came here. I was in Korea. Then I went into Europe to visit for a little bit, worked on some academic credentials. And I went to Saudi Arabia, worked for a little bit, and then like the opportunity to come to Georgia, fell in my lap. So I came here and I stayed for a little bit. I went to Turkey, went back to the United States, came back, and basically went back from Saudi Arabia to the United States to Georgia. And I saw the progression over time from a post-Soviet country through Rose Revolution, through the '08 conflict, and then the building and infrastructure. And it's very modernized now compared to when I first got here. But a lot of people that I saw recently on like influencers talking about it, they were like, oh yeah, it's cheap and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's not cheap, bro. Not even by a long shot. I mean, maybe compared to the United States, maybe, but compared to the rest of Europe, not really. It's like we've already compared and contrasted the differences with prices between Bulgaria, Eastern Europe, and here. Not much of a difference. It's about the same. And in some places in Europe, because it's subsidized, because in Europe they subsidize a lot of the food, certain things. So, and there's opportunity to reduce to subsidize housing. So it's a lot cheaper in Europe than here. Plus in Europe, you guys get free medical care. We get very limited medical care as citizens. Residents
I don't know. I don't. I got to pay for mine. I get no benefits as a refugee.
Yeah. So a question came up here. What is attracting Indians to Georgia? I think the main thing is the perception of opportunity. So, and it's not that they've all of a sudden started coming. Since Georgia opened up after Saakashvili, the Rose Revolution, Saakashvili's party gained power and influence. A lot of business owners and investment opportunities came about. So there are people coming from all over, Persia, India. So there's basically Central Asia, the Middle East, not so much Russia, but more European and American. A lot of Americans came here at that time to invest, buy property, start businesses. And there's a lot of small businesses here that are owned by foreigners. And there's a lot that are owned by Georgians. But like I said, Georgians were leaving to Europe, to Russia, to the Americas, some South America, or the GCC, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, these areas. experts that were leaving and coming and going, and they generally came back over time and traveled a lot. So yeah, I think the biggest influx of Indians here recently, they usually come as students a lot of times, or they come as business investors, people that want to start small businesses here, and they just stay.
I
But
had
it just,
heard that Georgian women were very attracted to Indian men, and this is a big driver of why.
I cannot disagree with you there. That's what I heard as well from expats. They were telling me that they do like Indian men. This is what I hear, and they like Turkish men. They love Turkish men. This goes back to the Byzantine and Ottoman Empire.
I made that up completely, but
I also heard they like Nigerian men too. Apparently, that's what I heard. And I've seen Nigerian. No, seriously. I had a student whose parents his father's Nigerian, his mother's Georgian, and unfortunately the students tease him a little bit about it. But like, yeah, for the most part, like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, but they do love Indian men, from what I understand, like Central Asian men, East Asian men, Africans. You understand too about Georgia, about its history and culture. Like it's a very diverse, ethnically diverse region of the Caucasus. It's made up of a lot of Slavic influence, Greek influence from the Byzantine, from Roman period. A lot of Turks, Azers, Armenians. And like I said, tribally, it's just there's different types of Georgian tribes: Megreli, Obsedian, Abkhazian. Just it is what it is. And then the language variations, and then religiously as well. So there's a lot of there was a huge significant Jewish population for a while, predating. I mean, this goes back histories. 100,000 Jewish residents, I think, during the Soviet period, and then it dwindled down to about 10,000 now. But there's two very large, significant not mosques, but synagogues in Tbilisi and I believe in Kutaisi. There's Catholic Church, historical Catholic Church in Batumi, which is in Western Georgia. But there's mosque here as well. One of the oldest mosques, I think, in the Caucasus is here in Tbilisi, apparently. But it's traditionally an Orthodoxy country, but it is quite diverse in language, culture, and ethnicity. Plus, it was part of the Soviet Union, so the Soviet Union was quite like the United States. It was just a mixture of a bunch of different types of peoples from all over Asia and Europe. And it's part of the Silk Road, so there's a lot of trade and there's a lot of influence, and there's several empires that came through over the years. So there's a little bit and pieces of each empire that has influenced or conquered or occupied over the years. So, yeah. And I think the population right now is at 3.7 million, and I believe close to 100,000 are living abroad in the United States alone. But that's not. I think that's just speculative. I don't know if it's verified, but I do. There's a significant population of Georgians that live in the United States. There's a lot of Georgians here that have American passports, by the way.
And this is the right to exit your country for whatever. You ought to have the right to leave for better opportunity, to go work somewhere else, to go experience something different. I've spoken to quite a few. Like, I speak to some Bulgarians who speak English, and they say, "Oh, I've spent some time working in Western Europe, Central Europe. Not many working in America, but I've met some people who went to America, went there for 10, 15 years. They said America is racist and decadent and decayed and crap. And they've come back and they say, I love my own country, and I'm so glad not to be in America anymore." I'm like, oh, fascinating. What was so bad about America? So it's racist because we're white. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So apparently, India is also establishing military ties to the Mediterranean to deal with Turkey and Azerbaijan. I have not heard that, but it's probably true. Oh, where am I at?
Maybe. Say where to deal with Turkey and Azerbaijan. Maybe North Africa.
Probably North Africa, maybe. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that before, but there's probably some truth to that. There's a lot of trade with India and Europe right now. Russia and India have a strong relationship going back to Soviet period. I think even before that time as well. Obviously, Persia has a strong relationship with Russia, and that's going back to the Tsar time. So this is like I said, Silk Road. This region is quite diverse. I mean, when you look at a micro level in Georgia, and then you look at further out to a macro level with Eurasia and Asian Manor, it's
I'm looking at Wikipedia, and there's another website. It's saying they've got like Madagascar, Oman, Mauritius, Seychelles. Used to have a place in Tajikistan. Not reading anything about Mediterranean. I'm on another website, Jagran Josh, list of Indian military bases outside of India. It says Mauritius, Agalea, Seychelles, Oman. I'm just not reading anything about the Mediterranean. So if you've got more information, great. Strategically expanding through agreements with the USA and Japan. Something that they are. India and Japan signed a logistics agreement giving their forces mutual access to supplies and services. A key benefit is India's access to Japan's military base in Djibouti, strategically in the same region, but still kind of East Africa. Not reading anything about Mediterranean. Okay, with that, I have to go. It's been a great year. It's been a great Collapse 2025 with you. Looking forward to Collapse 2026 or whatever we decide to call it. I hope you have some nice fireworks, nice view, and appreciate it all.
Yeah, take care, Mad Max. Happy New Year, and thank you guys for tuning in with us. I'm currently here in Georgistan. We're at 10 minutes still, and I've got some Indian food coming actually, so that's going to be good. And where am I at? Go back to my duel. Yeah. I'm gonna leave this up, and I'll leave this up. And
subscribe on Telegram, X, Rumble, Locals, and catch you next year.
Yeah, exactly, guys. Yeah, like and subscribe. Thanks I see quite a bit of people that are viewing and that stayed with us towards the end. So that's awesome. I hope you guys seriously have a happy New Year. The Orthodoxy guys, like Merry Christmas. I don't know if we're gonna do another stream because we got Christmas coming up in the 7th. I might do a Christmas Day podcast. It all depends. Just do a quick shout out for you guys. But thanks for joining. And 9 minutes to go, and that's about it. Turn camera off, and yes, 3 minutes. My food's coming. I'll see you guys later. Take care. Good night.